listening public. I am Edison Thomas, and we are here today in the Tobago Update studio, and we are live for the hour, right? Again, my name is Edison Thomas. I am filling in for the lovely lady, Lashley. Hopefully we'll see her again on our next installment of the program, but I am here today. You're stuck with me for the next hour, all right? And in this Tobago space, as we journey to become the greatest little island on this planet, there has to be some hiccups, right? And for the listening public, you might have been appraised, or you would have known by now that there has been a rift in between the THA and the ruling political administration called the Progressive Democratic Patriots, the PDP, right? And so we have seen details coming out from both sides. We have heard from the Chief Secretary, we have heard from the Deputy Chief Secretary, and we have also heard from other parties such as the Tobago Chamber as well, that would have given their opinions on the situation at hand. But we, on For the Other, we came here tonight to have a discussion, and we are going to have the opinions tonight of our esteemed panelists, and we are also going to give our opinions on what the situation is, what is the way forward, and just hash out what's the best thing for Tobago and the people of Tobago. All right? So tonight, I'm going to cue up a video which is a preamble of what took us to this situation in the first place, which would be the explanation of the situation of the supposed 27 members of the Roxborough Folk Performers that went to Brooklyn to give performances on behalf of Tobago to the Tobago diaspora and the wider New York area. All right? Do we have that video queued?
Good afternoon, good morning, whatever time you're looking at this. I'm Watson Duke. I am in Brooklyn, New York. Specifically, I am in 95 Chester Street, Brooklyn, New York, Peterkin Hotel. I have come here to the aid of some 27 Tobagonians from Roxborough Folk Group that came to Brooklyn with the aid of Tobago House of Assembly to perform and to represent Tobago and our culture. They were not provided for. Beyond the ticket, when they land, they were treated as thieves, as slaves, as castaways. There were no transportation to rally them and take them from the airport to a chosen specific destination. They came on the streets of New York trying to find a place to sleep, tired, weary, feeling emasculated and mentally broken. They stayed in a basement for a couple of days with dead rats, etc., hungry and forgotten by the Tobago House of Assembly. I say forgotten because in spite calls were made to the base, to Tobago House of Assembly, stating things are not so. All right, what can be done? Nothing has been done. Today is the 7th of September. How many days passed already? About 4 days passed, and thank God for the sake of a good Tobagonian from a diaspora, he would have utilized his cash after 4 to 5 days and paid for 27 of them to have proper housing in a hotel. But that's housing. At least they can wash, they can bathe, they can relieve themselves, etc. But more important than that is the one need for food. They are without food. They are hungry, and I've come to the aid. I can do so much. 1 day, 2 days, maybe 3 days. But when you consider that they are going back on Monday, what do they do between now and then? And they have lots of show to perform every time they travel. Each person must find at least a minimum of $20 to pay to travel. They have to keep their clothing clean. They must be well attired, hair comb, etc. It's causing them to stay in New York. I'm appealing to the Tobago House of Assembly, of which I'm part, but those who consider themselves to be the decision makers, those who consider themselves to be the hot shots in the Tobago House of Assembly, the policy makers and the drivers of the system, to act wisely and do so now. Show Tobagonians that you care about them and send money via Western Union, whatever means, so make whatever arrangement to ensure these persons are fed, that these persons are fed tonight. We're not waiting tomorrow. Do it now. Make whatever call you have to make. Pull it up, or else this goes live without any further warning. And you will have to deal with this. I will champion their cause, and I will defend their rights, because for that, I was voted into office. What and why you were voted into office, you must tell the nation. Thank you very much.
All right, and you just heard from the Deputy Chief Secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Mr. Watson Duke, also the political leader of the Progressive Democratic Patriots. Tonight we have an esteemed panel with us, and we're going to break down the video as well as others, and we want to get their opinions as well on the situation. First, we have Mr. Barry Nelson, political analyst. Also joining me is Mr. Anthony James, political activist, and he told me to call him the Tobago nationalist. All right? As well as we have Rodney Pigott, who is the chairman of CivilNet. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening to you.
All right, so firstly, guys, I want to get your thoughts. I want to get your thoughts on what we just saw on the video of Mr. Duke expressing his concerns about the situation of the 27 nationals in Brooklyn. Mr. James, we're going to start with you.
Pleasant evening, fellow panelists and hosts, and pleasant evening to the audience. I don't think that the issue had to do with the ill preparedness or the lack of proper provision, preparation that would have come across as the political leader of the PDP would have explained. I think he would have used that issue, as a means for him to address a greater concern that he has, a greater grievance that he has. As he explained in a later contribution, he said this is a power struggle. It's a power struggle. So I don't think, I want to be honest, understand that properly. It has nothing to do. What is going on in the PDP now, this is not the basis. This is a means that he has to jump off from to address the wider issue, and which is really the main issue, that a man, as he explained, has built a kingdom, and he cannot reign within that kingdom. So in a sense, I'm not surprised that there's a rift now. There's no surprise. In fact, I'm surprised that it did not happen earlier, given the personalities, given my knowledge of life. You see, you have Mr. Duke there. Now, if Mr. Duke was not sidelined as chief secretary, then you would not have this. But having built the organization, as he said, given the personality, given his age, so he built this thing, and now he can't reign, somebody else is reigning. We are actually expecting a lot, perhaps more, of Mr. Duke than he's mature to deliver. It's not that the intention might be bad also, but this is asking a lot of him to hold that down. And he is who he is, and that can't change overnight.
Definitely.
So that's my open salvo there.
All right. Mr. Pigott, we're going to go to you next. What are your thoughts on what we just saw?
All right. Thank you very much. And good night to Tobago Updates and the listeners. I agree with Anthony James. He made some very poignant, some very good points there on the matter. I think when I viewed the video, and when many people viewed the video, this was the first shot fired on this matter. So if you were in a movie theater and the chief secretary was sitting there in the audience with everyone, after hearing what Watson Duke had to say, everyone would have turned around and looked at the chief secretary like, really? You did that? That is how awful the video was crafted and constructed to cause that kind of reaction. And dare say it got that kind of reaction.
Yes, yes, yes.
But since then, with the chief secretary coming back and in his media briefing, giving his explanation on what he knew happened, and you know, we found out that this thing started like 2 months ago. Watson didn't say that. You know, we found out from the chief secretary that he promised Ms. Toppins that he would not be paying the entire thing. Watson didn't say that. We found out that the THA did not send that team. So just like any other team goes out there and say, well, I'm from Tobago, I'm representing Tobago, and so forth and so forth. You know, this is how the Roxborough Performance Group went out there. They were invited by a private group, and they went on their own steam.
On the sponsorship of the THC.
On the sponsorship of the THC that said, okay, we're going to help you with this. We're not going to carry the whole bill. Well, this is what we're hearing from the chief secretary, right? Now, mind you, we don't have any sort of documentation to back up anything. So everything right now in the space is speculation. Is this one said that, this one said that. I think once these persons return from New York, that there has to be a serious debriefing. Each and every one of them must sit down in front of a camera and someone dig into them and find out exactly what happened. From the word go, what happened, in order for us to piece this thing together for the people. Because it's really the people that have been, I would use the word sort of traumatized a bit, because what I'm hearing in the space is that people are really, I'm hearing words like we're very embarrassed. You know, people don't know what's going to happen. I hear a lot of young people talking about, well, you know, what's going to happen with the people in the airport in Crown Point? Are we going to forget about them now? You know, now that this thing is happening, is this going to trump everything else? Nothing else will get done. You know, so there's some things to work out, and I think it starts really with debriefing that team that went to get the facts from the horse's mouth as to what their role was in all of this. And then once that's pieced together, then information can come to the public more on it. So I'll end there for now.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Pigott. And we move on forward to Mr. Barry Nelson. What are your thoughts on what we just saw?
Thank you, good evening, and good evening to the viewers and listeners, and good evening to my fellow panelists. I must say that I agree fully with the two gentlemen who spoke before me. They spoke on different issues of what transpired from the video that we would have watched. But I want to put a different spin to what it is. Remember, Mr. Duke is the political leader and also the deputy chief secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly. That video that he made it from, if I'm not mistaken, he addressed himself as a political leader of the PDP. Right. So, from that perspective, the chief secretary, which is the chief secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly, Mr. Farley, who is also the deputy political leader, but in his capacity, he addressed the news conference that he held. He addressed the issue as the chief secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly. And the chief secretary of the Tobago House of Assembly have no allegiance to any political leader of any party.
That's correct.
Because the same request that Mr. Duke as political leader would have made, Mr. Morris, some group could have gone to say Germany, and Mr. Morris in his capacity as political leader could address. The chief secretary didn't have to respond. Also, Mrs. Swafford, who is a political leader of a party, could have made a request for some group that went to England. But I think the chief secretary would have handled the situation properly because the assembly was involved in some part in funding the group. And since that since that monies were the taxpayers' money was there, he had a duty to come out to the public to explain what the assembly, his executive council, what part the executive council would have played in that group. So from that perspective, the chief secretary would have handled the situation thing. And if Mr. Watson, you as political leader, the allegation that he made concerning the people, he as political leader have the power to rein in the chief secretary in the capacity as deputy political leader and the others in his capacity as political leader. So what he should have done, the forum that he took to try to rein in the deputy political as chief secretary was the wrong forum. He should have called a meeting which he have the right, and really Mr. August Farley as deputy political leader and deal with it there.
So do you think, and this is to you, Mr. August, do you think that any attempt was made by the political leader, Mr. Duke, privately to seek to address the power struggle issues that they had within the party before he came out with this?
Well, I don't know about power struggle. I can't answer that
because he,
but I don't know about power struggle that exists, but from ensuing conversation as Mr. James would have alluded to, Mr. James probably he have more information that I am concerned, but I have no concrete evidence that there's a power struggle. I could only ask you.
Okay. Mr. James, what your opinion is?
Well, the political leader has said that this in fact is a power struggle. You know what I'm saying? But I believe that when can I call you my partner?
Sure. Everybody might probably because everybody may not know the name Barry Nelson.
Barry Nelson better know that's Mappa. You follow what I'm saying?
That's a problem. We are equals.
Yeah. Right. So I guess Barry is saying that in the sense that when the first video came out, we may not have had any kind of from the release itself, probably have any kind of heightened evidence of a power struggle. He confessed, and the several contributions after, even from the deputy political leader in Trinidad, Miss Jackson. I don't know if you all saw a video with that.
I heard that, but I never saw it.
So she came out on the side of Mr. Duke, and she was rebuking the chief secretary.
Because she don't want to be fired.
Right? But what I'm saying, but what I'm dealing with is that all of that tells you that there is a rift, if you don't want to say a power struggle. But from my experience in life, it is in fact a power struggle. And perhaps the chief secretary, from his perspective, he may not deem it that way. Right? Because he's the incumbent that was determined before the election. But remember, in the heart of Mr. Duke, what we are seeing coming out, Mr. Duke is saying now that a man built
his party
something, and others, including the chief secretary, and others, they call them the hot shots, and the decision makers. And obviously, he is not happy. And then he went on now to fire the Tobago deputies. Right? So clearly, if I, from my angle, my perspective, it is clear to me that Mr. Duke wants to be the chief secretary. I could be wrong, but I'm really saying that's how it comes across to me. He wants to be the chief secretary.
I don't know if I could just respond to one of the. I know you are the moderator, but Mr. James make an interesting point in the sense that he said that Mr. Duke want to be the chief secretary, but the same party that Mr. Duke formed and is the founder of, and he's the leader of, have transformed how politics may be in the future in terms of leadership. I will explain why. People realize now that party politics is not doing anything for the majority of people in the country, only a few people.
Right.
And people are the people now, the people outside there, not the members and the clique within each party that determines the political leader. Them will continue to determine the political leader, but not for too long.
Right.
But they will not determine who be the prime minister or the
chief secretary.
or the chief secretary. Case in point. If remember when Tracy Davidson was the political leader,
Right.
the masses out there, although she was political leader, did not want her to be the
chief
to
secretary.
be the chief secretary. Now, when she came into power, she technically fired or asked for the resignation of the, and she becomes Kelvin, and she becomes the political leader, and she appointed, selected and put
Mr.
Ansel
Dennis.
Now, coming down to the election now, with this, coming down to the election in February, the first one they have this, it was the 6-6. The people, the masses, the voters, not the members, the masses who supported, did not want Tracy Davidson as the leader,
So they ultimately
as the chief secretary elect.
Right.
So the party started to move from 10 to 6. We went into the new election to break the tie. They did not want she again.
So
They wanted Ansel Dennis. I am saying to you, if the people choice was there, if the political leader has listened to the people and leave Mr. Charles there, the PDP would have not have been in power for today. I'm telling you. And if she had listened to what the people said with Ansel Dennis, probably the PDP would have won, but it would have been by a smaller margin.
majority.
And further, if the PDP, they play hard and did not go into the election as far as the chief secretary elect, the PDP would have never won. So the point I'm making now, gone are the days that a few people and the members of a political party decides who the chief secretary or who may be the prime minister. The people will decide. So what happens here is something good. And the PDP have set a new trend in politics, giving back the power to the people, so the people decide who they want to be head of the government of the country. So this is something good.
It's it's one of the hallmarks of a functioning democracy, where the people ultimately decide who it is they want to lead them. So besides the wishes of a political leader, it's still ultimately up to the people if they want to accept it or not. So we move on.
We are fast approaching that stage.
Fast approach.
And the PDP have proven that, and Farley have been proven that the people asked for him, and the party PDP think to it, and they won the election. The PNM did not attend to what the people said, and they lose the election.
All right. So, question over to Mr. Pigott, right? What do you think about the tactics that Mr. Duke used to get through to the short callers, the decision makers, as you might say, right? What do you think the tactic? Do you think the tactic was called for? Was it uncalled for? What do you think about it?
Well, I agree with my other two panelists here. While there's a lot of speculation in the place, one can look at the way something unfolds and sort of come to a conclusion or come to some sort of interpretation of why something may be the way it is. I have heard for quite some time that there is some sort of unease in the house, so to speak, in the PDP house, so to speak. We were told a very long time ago that this was coming. Some of the elders spoke to this, that this is coming. Stevie Wonder saw this coming. The manner in which Mr. Duke chose to address this matter is what really has people up in arms. People really don't care about what's going on inside of the party. Barry is very, very correct there. People really don't care what's going on inside of anybody's party. But once it leaks out into the public space and interferes
with the government,
with the governance I know you have to also look at the psychosocial impact.
Right.
You know, something that CivilNet is working on is bringing out a forum where we talk about public officials, their public behavior, and its impact on the public.
Right.
You see, they don't stop to think that, hey, I am like a star. I'm up there where everyone can see me. It's not like me being the chair of CivilNet and only a few people, CivilNet people could see me.
Right.
You are Deputy Chief Secretary, you're a Chief Secretary, you're Prime Minister. Everyone can see you.
Right.
So when you behave in a certain way, that is having an impact on the collective consciousness of the people that you say that you care about and that you're leading. So therefore, your behavior now, how you behave in public, you have to be very circumspect about it. And where you're human, everyone makes mistakes. Everyone says something they should not have said at a time they should not have said it, because people's egos get the best of them.
Right.
As we say in our spiritual set comes up, and people get upset.
Right.
So that tends to happen. But you as a leader now, you have to be able to look at yourself, review your tape, look at what you did, look at what you said, and say to yourself, I must now stand before the people and offer an apology for my behavior.
Right.
When people hear that coming from a leader, it says to them, ah, that's a leader. You're not perfect. But when you make a mistake, when you
can own
do
up to
make
the
a misstep, you know how to apologize.
Right.
That's a leader. Now, Barry said something very important that I want us to actually back up to. We tend to kind of go past some very crucial points.
Right.
Put that one on the board. Party politics.
Right.
What we're witnessing is a lot of symptoms. One of the crucial causes to the symptoms that we are having here in our country, Tobago as well as Trinidad, is party politics.
Right.
I'll tell you why. Even in the United States, George Washington, back in 1796, said, party politics is something that a people that are wise people, should avoid. He said that. Let's not go down that road of party politics.
Right.
Those factions that creates factions, and those factions go to striving against each other, and that will match up your country. Now, ultimately, they did devolve into party politics,
Right.
because that's just the direction that they had to go, and we won't go into the why, but that was their mindset. You understand? But he said, party politics is something that wise people ought to avoid. So this is not something that we should embrace, and it is time. I agree with Barry. It is time that this thing is looked at from a different direction. Anthony said it well. It's a blessing in disguise that this thing happened. It gives the people now an opportunity to review our governance structure. And as we push for our autonomy, our, how to put it, our way of governing ourselves, so to speak.
You have a he. Don't wake him up, don't wake him up, don't wake him up with this. Don't wake him up, don't wake him up.
Right? but as we push for that, one of the things that we have to put in place, and Shirley Cook of CivilNet often says this, we have to put something in place that rearranges how we govern ourselves.
Right.
And it does not have to be the way the Westminster system does it. It does not have to be the way Trinidad does it. We can govern ourselves in such a way where we have a council of elders that is gathered around those people that are what we call the front runners. Those are the people, if they have to go to the United Nations, you don't want to pick up a council of elders and send them to the United Nations. This is the person that goes, whether you want to call him a chief secretary or whatever you want to call him. But this person is guided by a council of wise elders, so that they're just not out there by themselves being the maximum leader type. You see? So having a people's house where the actual people themselves have a say in what's going on in their country, that's very important. The way we've been running things, every 4 years people wake up, put an X somewhere, and go back to sleep.
Right.
So the people have to look at this now and say, look, We can't continue to run our country like this. So this could very well be an opportunity for change down the road.
Okay, so what I could put to you, Mr. Ocho Richards, former Chief Secretary, he would argue that the Act 40 of 1996 was already designed with not party politics in mind, because there was not even the horseshoe, as Mr. Nelson says, it wasn't for opposing sides, but for each member of the assembly to come together as a council, as one, to make decisions, right? But I want to move on to the topic of egos. I want to move on to the topic of egos. We have two very high-ranking public servants, right? And it's no secret that one of those public servants has a very primed ego, right? So he took his shot. It is the first shot. What do you think? Do you think it was in the best interest of Mr. Augustine, or Chief Secretary Augustine, and on behalf of the Assembly, to make the statement saying that he's going to make that public statement saying he's going to review the portfolio of the Deputy Chief?
Well, I think he's well within his right as Chief Secretary to have done that. As Barry said, Watson spoke to him as the political leader attempting to dress down his deputy political leader. But election's over with.
Right.
The THA does not have any position called political leader or deputy political leader.
Right.
Watson is now the Deputy Chief Secretary, that is now his portfolio, to the people, and Farley is now the Chief Secretary.
Right.
So him speaking to Farley that way was definitely out of line.
Right.
The Chief Secretary has a responsibility now not to act from ego, but to act from a position of strength, because remember, it's the office that is acting, not the man.
Right.
Right? So whether it's Farley there, or Barry there, or Anthony there, that's the Chief Secretary's office, the office of the Chief Secretary. That office cannot give the appearance to the people that they are weak, that somebody out there could call and threaten them and talk to them all kind of ways. And the chief, well, you know, it's like Watson say jump and Farley must say how high.
Right.
No, I don't want a Chief Secretary that has to bow down to a political leader.
That cannot be.
And the notion that Watson comes back and says things such as, well, the PDP answers to the people and the THA answers to the PDP, ludicrous.
We're going to get to that.
We're going to get to that.
We're going to get to that.
We're
going to get to that. Mr. James, thank you. Where to go? Let Mr. James go. What do you think about the response?
I know what is making
good point.
Interesting, quite critical and correct, you know, proper points. But you see, and this is why it's important to understand what really is at play here.
Yeah.
And Watson knows different.
True.
Watson knows different. But so what is going on within the mind of Watson? So that Watson is coming up with a narrative. He's campaigning. You know what I'm saying? It's very important, you know what I mean?
Sounds very much
for
like
us to understand that, and he's campaigning to win. And so in fact he threatened the Chief Secretary, do not enter political zone or war that you cannot win. And we need to analyze that psychology and what he has said. And I don't think he's speaking flippantly when he says that. He means what he says.
Yes.
And then you're hearing from the deputy political leader in Trinidad now about allegations of so and so. And don't believe Watson is just operating willy-nilly.
Right.
Watson has armory.
Right.
And when he tells the Chief Secretary, you have to also consider the Chief Secretary hasn't come back since to speak.
Right.
It's not just in my estimation, and we have to think it out and think it out aloud.
Right.
It's not just a case that advisors have told him to don't fuel the fire, to stay quiet.
Right.
But you have to also consider the threat by Watson.
Right.
And when Watson says, you cannot, how can Watson tell the Chief Secretary he cannot win? And in fact, the Chief Secretary would have brought the entire executive council
To the meeting.
into the mix there too.
Right.
And I suspect too that, you know, because since the election, Watson has not been part of the fold.
Right.
He has been in Trinidad. He seems to be on his own.
Right.
Even for a significant
Dubai
part of the election, the campaigning, he was by himself also.
Right.
And he seems difficult to rein in. So he's at dissonance with the rest, it will seem. So even when he speaks from there, he speaks as though he is not part of that. So that is very clear to us.
Right.
And I want to suspect too that the executive, they have had enough of Watson. And this is why Mr. Augustine would have spoken as boldly as he did. Perhaps not as wisely. That's what I'm saying, because I'm saying it's not a straightforward situation. In the days of Mr. Robinson and Mr. Pandy was very wayward. He could not hold on a ministry. That's not his personality. He was a trade union man, political leader. He can't box into foreign affairs. He was a foreign affairs minister. And he could not function as the foreign affairs minister. Right. And they were saying, no, Robinson is operating as though he's a maximum leader, that traditional prime minister. But when you have a coalition arrangement, you can't function like that. So it's a lot of power sharing and understanding. And I'm saying to you, dealing with Watson is in his 40s and the chief secretary is in his 30s. The maturity required to handle such a delicate arrangement, I am saying it is not there. With the best of intentions that they might have, that it is not there. And also, the chief secretary is very happy to be chief secretary too. He said it from, are you there?
Yes, yes.
Mr. Chief Secretary, don't fear now, but in a few years, I'm coming for your job. So he likes that job.
Yeah, he loves the job.
Watson personality, we can, we have had time to analyze Mr. Duke. And Mr. Duke doesn't like to work under anybody.
Right.
He cannot work under anybody. And also, we must even consider too, we must discuss tonight too, the Chief Secretary has questions to answer. Based on the release of the videos and the information coming out, the Chief Secretary has questions, and perhaps one of the reasons why he has not come back to the public yet, because if he addresses one,
he has to address
he has to address all. But I guess we can go further with that later on.
All right, we are here live again with the panel on For the Hour. We are discussing the rift between the THA and the PDP. We're going to go now for a short break, and when we get back, we're going to continue to analyze the situation. Stay with us, stay tuned.
I love how you're moving your ways. Entertainment. Yes, we're bringing it to you. Tobago Updates. It's all about the new entertainment show, the VIP Experience, hosted by your boy Snoopy. Tune in every Wednesday from 8 p.m. and on Saturday mornings at 9 a.m. We're bringing to you the best Tobago has to offer. We're showcasing interviews, music, and everything that is fun. So join me on Tobago Updates for the VIP Experience. Yeah, man.
Like about to overload. Watch them sexy bagel woman. Beauty from head to toes in the sun. Skin food don't need no lotion.
Life, the concert.
Says her destiny.
Friday, 23rd September.
The night before Republic Day.
She says her destiny. She get next to me.
At the concert capital, the Queen's Park, Savannah.
Circle down on the lady. It has to say you are drive me crazy.
Guinness welcomes Mavado and his full band with rising superstar Ken. Life, the concert. Powered by Guinness and Strictly FX.
Excel Spa by Haley, where our highly trained staff are ready to deliver the top-class services in facial massages, waxing, nail enhancement, and body treatment. We are ideally located at Coco Avenue, Switzerland, Tobago. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, TripAdvisor, or you can call us on 730-0149. Excel Spa by Haley. Relax, renew, and rejuvenate.
MI4 Security Services Company is the most advanced security service in Tobago. Ask about our cash and transit service. It's safe, risk-free, reliable, and timely. We provide safe banking delivery for all business types and sizes with highly trained staff, 24/7 monitoring, coordinated emergency response, and a well-maintained fleet of armored vehicles. Contact us at 660-7723 or visit our website at www.mi4securitytt.com to sign up today.
Back with For the Hour, and we are with our esteemed panel, Mr. Anthony James, political analyst, Mr. Barry Nelson, political activist, and Mr. Rob Pignott, who is the chairman of CivilNet. We ended off by discussing the rift that is currently happening in between the THA and the PDP. All right, and we played the first video for you guys, which was Mr. Watson Duke, the Deputy Chief Secretary and the political leader of the PDP, where he was outlining the strives of the 27 Tobago Nationals in Brooklyn. And since then, we have had a response from the Chief Secretary, which would have been on Thursday in his post-executive media briefing, that contrary to what the information was given by Mr. Duke, monies were accounted for a part sponsorship of the Roxborough folk performers headed by Ms. Vanilla Toppin. All right? But since then, we have also had a new point of view coming out from the team, which stands for the Tobago Empowerment Alliance Mission, explaining what has happened on the ground in Brooklyn as that person was with the delegation from the Roxborough folk performers in Brooklyn as they were having the problems. So we have that voice note for you, and we're going to cue that up now.
Yeah, we're going. That group that come up here and get stranded since them leave Tobago to go to Trinidad to pick up visa, expecting to get a visa at a certain time, right? And for them to receive back the passport and all of that. It take them a whole week. Like them think them were just going down to get a stamp in the passport and then up on a plane to come to New York. They had us to stay in a hotel in Trinidad until they receive back the passport. So by the time they receive back the passport, they miss the flight. All the hotel and accommodation that they made for New York had us to pull back because they wasn't here on time. Number one. Number two, they switched from Caribbean Airlines to JetBlue. Don't know where they get the funding from. Bought the ticket. 12 of them come up first. Then 11 of them come up after. When they reach up in New York, they went to the place where they were supposed to be staying. No answer. If you book a place to stay for Monday and you didn't turn up Monday and then you turn up Friday or you turn up the next Monday and you pull back your money, why would I answer my door? Tell me. So them come here, them see the flaws from way in Trinidad, they could have turned back. They missed the Tobago Day celebration, right? Which they was supposed to be a part of because they say they have other venture out here, right? They missed the celebration. They went on to the other venture. My PRO end up and set up a place for them to stay in a basement. It was not the best. And as I say, America had plenty rat. So that they wasn't able to function, right?
That's true, bro.
And they come and expire. So right about now, in order for Farley to send back money, because now they have to know where to send it, who to send it to, and stuff like that. So with all of that now, he have business that take care of in Tobago and stuff. Them supposed to reach out and say, well, all right, ting. The next 11 reach up. Instead you call and tell them, yo, a little bother to come. It ain't make no sense for you to come because things ain't right. You still allow them to come. So 12 and 11 end up to be 23 or all. They reach up here. Stranded, nothing to eat, no place to stay. And who is to be blamed? You want to blame the chief sex? Eh? You can't blame the chief sex for that. All your ducks didn't row up properly. It wasn't in row from the get-go. So now people here now have to run helter-skelter all about to make sure that all you're alright, all you're stranded. Right? My PRO, he reached out to Farley. Farley tell him here what, take care of the bill and we will reimburse you. He went ahead and put them up in the hotel. Righteous part that make that video. Put them in the hotel and the only thing is outstanding is meals. He also tell him organize meals for them. Get a price and he will be reimbursed. Duke now was informed about the situation. The situation was under control. And he decided still to go and make a video to send it across the internet talking about the people and them in the government, which is in his executive, to get off the high horses and do what they're supposed to do. He had information at hand. He had phone numbers at hand. He could have called to find out what it is taking place before he made that stupid decision to get on live and play blowing up people in Tobago. Farley and my PRO done sort out the thing already.
Wow. Oh, yes, so when they say bacchanal in the space, bacchanal in the space. Panel, the ducks didn't roar properly.
I just want to just make a comment from the last question you asked these children. You already remember, during the election, people were saying that the PDP pushing Farley in front and when election, and if the PDP win the election, Farley will be the de facto chief secretary, and Watson will be the real chief secretary. It so happened I was on the campaign trail with the PDP. It's no news, I could say that, and we had to defend that. No, Thursday gone after the video that Mr. Duke made was the opportune time to show Tobago who is the real chief, if the chief secretary, and if he's the de facto chief secretary.
Right.
And Mr. Farley answered the question that the PNM was saying during the election, that Farley is just a de facto thing, and so Mr. Farley as chief secretary answered the question. So the whole of Tobago know who is in charge and who is the chief secretary.
So he cleared up any suspicion about who is the real decision maker in the executive.
As executive.
Right. Correct.
Because the point I want to add on to that, going back to party politics and the message that Duke sent, that PDP answers to the people and the THA answers to the PDP. The THA represents the whole of Tobago, all 60,000 people plus in Tobago. PDP is a member-driven organization. They answer to their members. The reason why they call it a party is because it is part of a whole. THA is a whole. What on God's green earth does it look like for the whole to report to the part?
Right.
Isn't it the other way around? Don't the parts make up the whole, or is it the whole that make up the part?
The parts make the whole.
Then makes absolutely no sense with that. And if that's the way it is, then that is our fault as the people.
But it's not that way.
If that's the way it is, then that's our fault. Because remember, as Barry said, PNM did the very same thing when they were having their internal wrangling, ousting Charles and making moves to position Tracy to be this when election come, and having Ansel as the interim this and so forth and so forth. You see? And how long did that hang up Tobago's business? Everybody was scratching their chin. When the bus gonna move?
Right.
You know, PNM have us jammed up.
In fact,
So this is where the political party, the party itself, is functioning as if it's the whole.
Right.
And that is,
In fact,
gentlemen, that's a mental problem.
If I may come in there, what Mr. Duke was proposing is in fact illegal, illegitimate, and unconstitutional.
It's true.
You follow what I'm saying?
Correct.
Where I see Mr. Duke has come up, it's important to analyze. Analyze what really is.
Definitely, yeah.
You got to go beyond the statement, beyond the statement to see what really, if you really want to live in truth. If you want to live with the what is spoken or said, we live like a facade and so on, and we miss the point. We need to dig deep to understand, because it is clear from what the gentleman just said there that Mr. Duke is not making sense.
Right.
But I read sometime in a book, a guy said, an Indian philosopher, said, the mark of truthful living is to know the rationale within the irrational.
Yes, correct.
Duke is not a dunce guy.
Right.
And we must not make that mistake to believe that he's dunce. He's not a dunce guy.
Very brilliant.
So even as we've seen irrational or premature, unsubstantiated positions coming out, what is the real reason? What is the rationale? And I said, what he's proposing is the absolute. It's treachery. That's treachery. Anytime the party or the THA, the executive is answering to the party and then party answering to people, he flip the whole thing there. If what I'm saying, as I think Mr. Augustine had said, he has taken an oath. You take an oath to no party, you take an oath to the country.
The oath of office for the
you take an oath to the countries. You can't answer to that.
That's it.
You can't have that.
That's it.
Right? So I'm saying, we have to discuss the real issue, because the thing has moved from one to the next. Mr. Duke has started, and he has started, and he has not yet stopped.
Right.
And he continues to shoot, and he believes he has Farley in a corner. And I'm saying, I am not totally surprised, but responsibility and duty should have had Mr. Augustine making a statement, despite what his advisors tell him, because you having the group, well, in the press conference, he said he had, whether he promised them, but he has committed this amount of funds.
Right.
That was not properly cleared up, because we don't know if they received the money. Because if they promised them and they have received no cent.
Right.
Actual money in hand.
Actual money in hand.
Yeah.
Money in hand.
Yeah.
I don't know if
But he said that he don't like to give money in hand.
Well,
so he made that clear.
And I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Actually, he says the policy
he's
of
not
the THA
to
is
give
that
any money.
they don't give money in hand,
Right.
that they pay invoices.
But what he
for
means in all of that is that the expenses or the expenditure have been met to some degree, or to the degree of the 400,000.
We would say
you
by
follow what I'm saying? And then the group of Vernella is coming out. Perhaps the group is coming now, or are coming to say that they have not received anything. And they are given an implication and interpretation. What do they mean by that? Are they saying that none of the expenses, the THA did not meet any of the expenses? That's the impression. So I don't know if people playing with words.
I think
You
they
feel what I'm
are.
saying?
I think they are, because I think a lot of what's out there is speculation until we're able to see the hard facts.
Yeah.
Right? If we're able to see via the minutes that the
But you know, but to be very honest, you
Let-
think that
let me
you
finish.
think
Let me
that
finish.
aspect is important?
Let me finish. to this point, to the point that Anthony is making, it has some relevance because it's questions on people's minds.
Yeah.
That's not the first time I've heard that, you see, about the funds being delivered and so forth. He mentioned that he would he gave a promissory note to the airlines, right?
Exactly.
We heard that part, right? He also mentioned that when Vanilla Toppin came to his office with 3 other people 2 months ago, he made it clear to her that THA is not going to cover the whole
The
tab.
total cost.
Right,
Yeah.
correct.
He mentioned that Vanilla said to him, we don't need you to cover the whole tab. All we need is the airlines paid for and help fast tracking our visa. We have everything else covered.
Right.
The organizers that have invited us to come to these events, they're feeding us.
Right.
They're
And
taking care of our transportation to get from whatever hotel we are to the site and back. Duke said in his video that the people had to go into their pocket and spend $20 every time they had to travel. Travel where? To shop? Because if you're going to the event that you're there to perform at, you already said the organizer promised that they're taking care of that. Did that fall apart? You see, these are questions I'm asking. I'm not making a statement.
breaking it down,
So
yes.
this is why when this team comes back,
Right.
and I've said this before, I mean, the gentleman said 12 came, then 11 came. I count 23.
Yes.
27 they stated.
Duke said 27.
Yeah.
Where the other 4 come from? Somebody says some people from Trinidad tagged along and went. I don't know. So when these people come back now, what the people need from them is to be sat down in a professional environment, in front of a tape, let's make a tape, and debrief them.
Right, and this is a very important point, backing up to what Mr. James said. As far as what Mr. James said, how come the Chief Secretary, Mr. Farley, have not responded? Knowing, since I look at certain things, I look at the personality of certain the leaders, and Mr. Farley, the Chief Secretary, is one not to jump out if somebody make an accusation against him. Yeah. He waits.
Right.
He waits
Yes.
and let everything play out.
Right,
and I
right.
think the Chief Secretary, in his wisdom, is waiting until the group comes back to hear probably a lot of news, probably updates, probably may have Ms. Vanilla Toppin and other team. And he will wait and let Tobago everything ventilate.
That's it.
And then he will make his decision.
That's it.
And we will decide. And probably then he will indicate when he said he will have to review the responsibility of the Deputy Chief Secretary. Probably all of that will come on. But knowing him, he's a person like that he waits until everything ventilates before he make his comment.
Well, that's certainly the Chief Secretary that we need.
Respond to that. Because earlier on in the life or the term so far, we observed that he has been leading from behind. With the vaccine mandate and all of those things. He's been waiting for the matter to ventilate and then come out in the matter of the quarry in terms of win for James. He waited. I'm not so sure that is good leadership. I believe leadership should be from in front, and it is based on policy. One of the things we have not discussed is policy. What is the policy? How did the group of Vanilla end up with a commitment from
I think that is where you get
taxpayers' money?
That is one of the areas you get leaks in.
400,000. What's the policy? Beyond the and one of the things is that this regime knows nothing about policy. Perhaps even the regime before. We having government in Tobago without policy. They don't even know. Government is about making policy. Some of them getting in trying to micromanage people, division and the office and so on. Government, as an electrician tell me, Kojak, I could call his name. He said, James and Falazian doing no office work. The office work, they is to make policies. Right? Apart from that, he can give a clear statement as to exactly what went on with the 400,000 because they who allocated it.
And this itemized.
They who allocate, so he doesn't have to wait. And I'm
no, but wait on the wider picture.
But I'm saying,
you have to wait.
No, I'm saying speculation is going out in the public.
Yeah,
you
but
can't
you-
wait and, no, what I'm saying,
I hear you,
But I'm
but-
saying he doesn't need, if he knows what he has done, and he ought to know he's the Secretary of Finance, and he's the Chief Secretary. So I'm saying he has to, there can be no doubt as to what happened from their angle.
Right.
And I'm saying he needs to clear that up instead of allowing all the rumors and bad conclusion and speculation.
Right.
But I'm saying too, it's possible. Why is it maybe his style? Let's say it's his style.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm saying we have to also consider the fact that Mr. Duke is on the rampage and he's not going to stop. So he can't wait until Mr. Duke stops because Mr. Duke is not going to stop right now. And we have to ask, is it possible that the Chief Secretary has been backed in a corner based on the threats, overtly and covertly, by Mr. Duke? The population needs to think about
Right, and I hear you, but then the Chief Secretary have a responsibility to diverse himself from the political rift. He have to make sure that the institution called the Tobago House Assembly
That's right.
is functioning,
That's right.
and he cannot mesh both of them together. The administration and governance from the political maneuvers that Mr. Watson Duke as political lead schedule. He have to stand up and show some kind of leadership and some decorum. That's the word I'm looking for, the statesmanship. And let the people know of Tobago that the institution and the executive called the Tobago House and the executive is here to govern, and the citizens is not to worry about that.
And I'm agreeing with you there.
And I think he's
I'm
doing that.
agreeing with you there. But Mr. Duke but the Chief Secretary responding to the group. That's what I'm dealing with. Not necessarily responding to Mr. Duke.
Okay.
But responding to
got
the
you.
group.
Yeah.
Because the group have come out and said that they have not received.
In time, I would not have responded. I think the Chief Secretary is playing, is doing well, is doing fine. That's my opinion.
Keep in mind, the group is due back today, right? So I don't know if they're back yet. So I would think by midweek, all of these questions that we have,
We'll have more information.
we should have answer for
And
it.
this is where the Chief Secretary is waiting on.
And a wise man said,
I still
if an experienced mud wrestler is trying to get you into a mud wrestling fight, bring a water hose.
And I agree with that soft answer turns away much wrath and that kind of psychology from the scripture.
Yeah, you can't get into
but
the mud.
I'm saying, I don't know that the Chief Secretary and the group are in any kind of war.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm not dealing with Mr. Duke. Because as a matter of fact, in some
But are you,
quarter-
Jim, before you think, you think that since that Mr. Duke is champion in the cause for the group, that the group have to come back and try to champion the cause because Duke found himself? Are you think is that?
This is why I said they need to be debriefed one at a time. Get them into a room one at a time.
Why you all so
and
silent?
find out from one.
Mr.
what
Duke is saying, why you all
happened
so
from
silent? All not helping me, all not backing me.
I think the group
We have to speculate.
have recognized too that the matter that Mr. Duke has politicized the matter. I think you get
So I
that
try to do a
impression?
little,
So they now are coming out, and then again too, I'm sure Mrs. Topping would have heard that much allegations have been made against her, calling her for her past, her history,
Bringing all that into play, yes.
and all of that, so that
Yeah,
when people
she
say
have to
the
respond,
group,
yeah.
when people say the group, I mean, is the leader.
They are between a rock and a hard place.
I know you. I didn't say it. You said it. I did not say it. You said it. You said it. You said it. He said it. No.
We will see what happens.
All right.
They are between a rock and a hard place right now.
Right.
And it is unfortunate, and I say unfortunate, if Mr. Duke used this group to further his personal.
And that was going to be my next question.
Again?
That was going to be my next question. Has this group, the Roxborough Folk Performer, headed by Ms. Veneral and Toppin, have they now given Mr. Duke the ammunition he now so needs to launch a political attack against the Assembly and cause further division in the party? And what are the implications?
Well, Mr. Lloyd Best used to call it an accident as well. You follow what I'm saying?
Yeah, I remember that.
And then again, he used to use the accident as though it was imperative that it would it will happen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Was I waiting to
You don't let a good problem go to waste. You take advantage of that. And again, that is good speculation, right? That's just speculation.
Yes.
This man is a politician too. He's a strategist. He's a strategist.
But it comes back to what's hovering underneath. What are the real motives? As a matter of fact, the chief secretary did say to him, he said he would not even bother to theorize what was responsible for the Mr. Duke making those statements.
There's much to come out. There is much to come out, yes.
And if you notice, even today, another video, I think, or some clip I understand has been released, he's talking about how he has basically said the chief secretary has failed.
Yes,
that's what he has been saying. The chief secretary has failed and departed from the mandate and all of that. And where are the jobs? We promised jobs and all of that. Where is that? Yeah. What is going on? Right. This has nothing to do with the group now and what happened in
well, you see, okay, you see, and this is where the political part of what's in is coming. This is where the trade union is coming.
Right.
He's now looking because people, the PNM people and some PD people are disappointed that things are not going as fast as things. So he's using that base to gather support. I don't think he will get that support. I don't think he will get that support.
As they say, when the elephant fight, he get trampled. Right? So what do you think the views coming out from the Tobago space, they're looking on, right? And what do you think the sentiment is coming from the people looking on?
From what I've heard so far, and Sibylnet has his finger on the pulse of the people. We're talking to the people, we're on Facebook, listening to the people, engaging in conversation. I'm talking to people out in the space, the marketplace, the restaurants and so forth. And what I'm hearing from everyone is that they are embarrassed. This is really embarrassing to the people. And the reason being is that they put such hopes in this young administration that was going to go in there and fix things, innovate, and do something different than what has been done. So when this thing occurred, you see, it's sort of like rocks people back on their heels a little bit. Like it's like one of those Fraser punches, you know, what? Or the Mike Tyson uppercut.
It's a good thing you raise that point.
And they raise back. The people are like this right now.
No, but I will tell you something. People, a lot of people outside or beside our age group, accustomed to, especially 20 21 years period, accustomed to a certain livelihood and a certain form of government, the dependency. You go to work, half day, you could leave, and your party, we could party and this kind of thing. So this is what they know about. No. The PDP had plans to change that. So if you depart from what the norms people have, people will figure that you're not doing anything. And added to that, remember the administration came in this basically at the second quarter, where basically the past regime would have
already have rains over
and the money would have done, they would have plenty commitment. So they had, in terms of financial resources, scarce resources. They have
constraints.
Yes, that's the word, constraint.
Right.
So basically, that is why I was waiting on two things. One, to hear the budget, with that the chief secretary would have done, and I think was a good presentation, the policy. So even some of them was far-fetched, some of them was exaggerated. And secondly, wait for the first real disbursement from the central government for the whole year, which will come at the beginning of October. And then by Christmas, I will have a fair assessment of it. So you see, a lot of people have to understand the governance. A lot of people just don't know how a country runs and how the assembly runs and how money. But that is our education thing. They have to educate the people.
In response to that, some people are going to ask, if cash is scarce, how can you commit $400,000 to?
Right, and hear that,
to stop it.
And I think I could be wrong. Remember that group that group is in the constituency of Mr. Watson, the political leader. And as chief secretary, he's a political leader. You know, the chief secretary try utmost best to try to accommodate. And
but that's not. But that's not.
You know, that is. Yeah. But that is not good governance. You know, that is not good governance. And this is. And that is the area where I think the chief secretary will get licks.
And the other thing too, monies are released in quarters.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the quarters that have gone,
supposed to release in quarters. It's only, but
these are new quarters.
And I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. The chief secretary must take not really chief secretary and secretary of finance must take some kudos. But before the PDP came into power, the past region, the PNM was getting it monthly. They was not getting it quarterly. Now this PDP assembly is getting their money quarterly, at least not the whole quarter, but at least the 3 months. So what I know, they're getting 2 months in advance and then in 1 quarter. So there's improvement. So he must be given some kudos.
So I'm saying, so if they're getting the money in quarters, how critical it is to wait until the next budget? Follow me closely, because when the next budget is disbursed, they will still be receiving by quarters. Effectively, Tobago is a quarter country.
Right, but Jim, what a lot of people don't know.
Yeah.
What a lot of people don't know. Remember in previous, I'm not taking over his show. In previous dispensation,
we have to wrap up.
Yeah, well, right. This is my wrap up. Right, that the Tobago House of Assembly over the years, under the PM, would have gotten unspent balances. But this assembly, when this assembly came in, that was wiped out. All unspent balances was wiped up. All the quarters, the first and second quarter, money was spent. The money that they borrow, that was wiped out.
Yes.
And there was a lot of commitment. So the money that they would have gotten for the next 2 quarters, what money was basically to pay bills and to keep recurrent expenditure and salaries. There was little space for development program and to creation of jobs. Let us be honest.
All right, gentlemen. All right, so, but all in all, we want to make sure that whatever decisions is taken by the THA is in the best interest, or how this plays out is in the best interest of Tobago ultimately, and that all people could get back to business, and this does not detract too much from THA business, all right? Gentlemen, we have come to the end of our program tonight for the hour. Thank you very much for joining us here in studio. Tobago, I want to thank you for joining us tonight on For the Hour. I am Edison Thomas, filling in for the lovely lady Lashley. Hopefully you'll see her next week, but if not, you'll see me again. All right, I want to bid you guys adieu, and from Tobago Update Studios, good night.